Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're analyzing a system that's, famous worldwide for its relentless speed and intensity.
American professional culture.
Exactly. It's a culture that has absolutely fueled massive economic growth, staggering innovation. But it also struggles.
Deeply. It struggles with the human cost, which we see show up as, well, widespread chronic burnout.
So in this deep dive, we're using the sources you've shared to figure out what precisely makes this high-pressure, high-reward system tick.
And it's so much more than just a set of workplace rules, isn't it? It's really a reflection of the national psyche.
Right.
And our source material does an excellent job of boiling this all down into what we can call the enduring trinity of cultural expectations.
Okay, that's a great frame. So what are the three core parts of this trinity?
Okay, so first, there's rugged individualism. This puts an intense value on autonomy and self-reliance.
Being a self-starter.
Totally. Then second, a commitment to unvarnished directness in how you communicate. It's about clarity and speed over, say, saving face.
Get straight to the point.
And third, an unyielding drive to compete. This relentless focus on the goal of always being the best.
When you put those three things together, it really does sound like a perfect recipe for both huge opportunity and, well, severe performance anxiety.
That's the tension right there.
So our mission today is to give you the historical context for why this system pressures employees the way it does.
Yeah, and what that ultimately means for the future of work, and maybe for your own experience in it. To really get the pressure cooker environment of today, we have to start at the beginning.
The historical bedrock of belief.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's trace this back. Our sources show the root of the American work ethic really starts with the Protestant work ethic.
That's right. The origins are theological. You can trace them back to early European settlers and the tenets of Protestantism.
And there's a key thinker here, right?
Yes. The crucial insight comes from sociologist Max Weber. In his 1905 work, he argued that the religious ideas of groups like the Calvinists were instrumental in fostering modern capitalism.
So labor stopped being just about survival. It started becoming something bigger.
Precisely. Work was completely reframed. It shifted from just being a necessity to being a moral and spiritual duty. People started calling it a calling.
And with that came a whole set of values.
A whole set. Diligence, self-reliance, being really frugal. These weren't just good economic practices anymore. They became moral virtues.
What's so fascinating there is how that religious mandate translates directly into a business model, a foundation for scale.
It creates a moral obligation to scale. I mean, think about it. If you accumulate wealth, but you also live this ascetic lifestyle, no frivolous spending, that wealth was seen as a sign of divine favor.
So you can't just spend it.
You can't. It gets reinvested into the enterprise. That's what naturally leads to growth, to modern industrial capitalism. That same mindset is, the psychological foundation that built Silicon Valley.
That's the modern connection.
Yeah.
And that religious foundation, it just melts seamlessly into the country's great secular promise.
The American dream.
The American dream.
It's the secular counterpart. It provides the social license for that competitive spirit. The dream basically argues that anyone, and it means anyone, can achieve success through sheer hard work.
Regardless of where you start, the promise of upward mobility.
Exactly. It fosters this inherently ambitious, goal-oriented workforce.
But our sources also mention how quickly that idea of meritocracy starts to break down when you look at, inherited privilege and systemic barriers. Is that bedrock of belief actually cracking?
That tension is exactly what we see today. The core ideal is still a belief in meritocracy, that rewards are based purely on ability.
But the reality doesn't always match the ideal.
And when it doesn't, the ambition is still there, but the disillusionment gets deeper. But historically, that ideal is the foundation for the very first pillar.
Individualism.
Individualism.
Let's look at that. The U.S. consistently ranks as one of the most individualistic countries in the world. What does that look like day to day in an office?
It translates into this expectation that employees have to be self-starters. You have to be proactive, aggressive, do-it-yourselfers.
Right. You're expected to own your tasks, own your career path, without needing constant hand-holding.
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to do it for you.
The sources call this the lone eagle's flight. What are the undeniable strengths of this hyper-individualism?
Oh, it's a phenomenal driver of innovation. When employees feel empowered to think for themselves, to take smart risks, creativity just thrives.
And it creates accountability.
high personal accountability,
Yeah.
which makes for a very efficient system. And when the individual is the focus, the principles of fairness and equal opportunity are, at least supposedly, reinforced.
But that me-first mentality sounds like it would be just, inherently terrible for building a collaborative team.
It's often the biggest hurdle. When the culture celebrates the lone wolf, the hero who pulls an all-nighter to save the project, it implicitly punishes teamwork.
So employees internalize that.
They do. And they might start to fear asking for help. They see it as a sign of weakness or incompetence that's going to hurt their individual performance review.
That creates a deeply cutthroat environment, doesn't it?
Mhm.
If my success is defined only by my own metrics, why would I ever help the person sitting next to me?
You wouldn't, especially if they're up for the same promotion. It just undermines the trust you need for good information sharing. This tension is constant.
Right.
So if individualism promotes the lone wolf, how does that mindset affect the way people communicate? That takes us to pillar number 2,
Directness.
directness.
American professional communication, as our sources note, it values clarity, transparency, and getting straight to the point above pretty much everything else.
And it's all driven by efficiency. Time is money, right? So avoiding ambiguity maximizes output.
And in practice, that looks like very open feedback.
Very open. Positive or negative, focus strictly on the issue at hand. The style is informal, even between a junior employee and a senior leader. Voicing your opinion is encouraged.
I can see how that's productive. But for someone coming from outside that system, that must be jarring.
Absolutely. For people from high-context cultures, where relationships and history dictate meaning, this direct style can feel incredibly blunt, even rude,
Because it bypasses the relationship building stage.
completely.
That's a key distinction.
Ah,
I did find this one nuance fascinating, though. The directness doesn't always apply to saying no.
right. Americans will often avoid a direct, harsh rejection to maintain this sort of agreeable atmosphere.
Using vague phrases like, I'll have to circle back on that.
Or I'll have to think about that. It's a survival mechanism, really, balancing efficiency with a kind of superficial politeness.
I think I read that example in the notes. A VP told a European partner, I'll circle back on that next quarter.
And the partner waited for 3 months,
Patiently waiting.
completely missing the signal that the idea was dead and the conversation was over.
Ouch. A tough lesson. Okay, let's cover the third pillar. That unrelenting competitive drive. This isn't just about business, it's woven into the social fabric.
It is the engine. Competition is seen as the main motivator. It pushes individuals, whole companies, to constantly improve and innovate.
And the rewards are tied directly to it.
Intrinsically linked. Compensation, recognition, it's all tied to performance. It reinforces that fundamental idea: hard work pays off, and winning matters most.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the psychological toll of this constant high-stakes game is enormous.
The pressure cooker creates high stress, debilitating anxiety, and this profound fear of failure because the stakes are defined as absolute.
And when competition turns toxic,
It fosters a dangerous win-at-all-costs mentality. It can excuse some really questionable behavior as long as the numbers look good.
this must also contribute massively to imposter syndrome. You're constantly comparing your metrics to the celebrated high performers.
That constant comparison is brutal. And when an employee's fundamental self-worth becomes linked only to their professional performance,
So the promotion, the metric.
the inevitable setbacks in a long career can have a devastating impact on their mental health.
Right. It's not just that you failed.
It's that you are a failure.
So let's connect these three pillars, individualism, directness, competition, to the real-world consequences, long hours, and the infamous hustle culture.
The legacy of that work ethic, amplified by the competitive fear of failure, means Americans work longer hours than many of their peers in other developed nations.
It's standard for professionals to put in 50, even 60 hours a week.
And critically, unlike in many countries, there is no federal law limiting the number of hours an employer can demand.
And that lack of a safety net is a direct consequence of individualism, isn't it?
Hmm.
The belief is you're responsible for yourself, so the system doesn't need to protect you from overwork.
And that environment is exactly what gave rise to hustle culture.
This ethos that glorifies relentless work, constant productivity,
And having side hustles, it implicitly demands that you be always on, perpetually optimizing every single minute of your life.
the backlash here is just, it's so warranted. Critics argue this isn't productivity. It's a toxic work environment that leads to chronic stress and just a total neglect of well-being.
And the statistics are, well, they're a sobering testament to this systemic failure. The sources cite a study showing that 66% of American employees are experiencing some form of burnout.
66%. That's not just a challenge. That sounds like a systemic health crisis.
It is.
What's the specific mechanism in the Trinity that drives it past the 50% mark?
It's that deadly combination. The fear of failure from the competition pillar and the inability to ask for support from the individualism pillar.
So you feel pressure to perform constantly, but you can't show any cracks or ask for boundaries.
Precisely. And if you look at younger workers, say 18 to 34, who entered the workforce steeped in this hustle culture, that number jumps to over 80%.
80%, wow.
They are inheriting a system designed for maximum individual extraction.
The cost is measurable, right? Decreased productivity, higher absenteeism, crippling employee turnover. The U.S. ranks near the bottom globally for work-life balance.
This crisis point is forcing the culture to a crossroads, which brings us to the future landscape.
Particularly how organizations are grappling with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the impact of technology.
Yeah.
So what's the specific challenge for implementing genuine DEI principles within this hyper-individualistic framework?
The core ideal of meritocracy, the idea that you rise solely on your own merits, can sometimes mask systemic biases. It's incredibly hard for an individualistic culture to address group-level disparities.
Because the focus is always on individual failure or individual achievement.
Never the collective barriers the system itself creates.
So it requires a conscious effort to challenge that mindset, to move beyond just token representation and hold leadership accountable for equity.
Exactly. And then there's technology. In a culture that values efficiency above everything, tech AI, remote models, is embraced without question.
But here's the ultimate paradox. Technology also makes the always-on mentality so much worse.
It absolutely does.
The ability to work from anywhere just makes it harder to disconnect, which increases digital burnout exponentially.
This raises the most important question for the coming decade. How can organizations harness tech for productivity, which they value so highly, while also establishing healthy, enforceable boundaries to protect their people?
That feels like the defining question. We've seen how this trinity, individualism, directness, and competition, has propelled the nation to great economic heights, but at a huge cost to well-being.
And the historical ideals are being fundamentally re-examined by a new generation. They're demanding change, and they're fueled by these staggering burnout statistics.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the current moment, which was, accelerated by the pandemic, it presents this huge opportunity.
An unparalleled opportunity for companies to forge a fundamentally new social contract in the workplace.
So the key, then, is whether this deeply ingrained American psyche can evolve past a success model built on maximum individual extraction.
Right. The future of American work culture depends on its ability to temper its most extreme tendencies and redefine success more holistically.
Valuing collaboration and well-being right alongside individual achievement.
So the key question for you to mull over is this. Will the coming decades see that self-made myth, which often required working yourself into the ground, finally replaced by a sustainable, self-cared-for reality where efficiency and rest are seen as partners, not enemies?